Brightburn came out, and I was talking about it before. Movie's already made $25 million worldwide.
Heyo.
Yes, and it's dark. We always keep talking about it. It's dark Superman, and Brightburn once again, and the director, a guy I got actually a chance to have a lot of fun with back in 2015 on Movie Threesome with Tiffany Smith. Director Dave Yarovesky is here. Hello, Dave. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I saw you. You were doing an interview with Perry and Haley. And we just kind of caught up, and I was got to come in and talk about the movie because there's so many questions that I have for you about this thing, man. Like,
yeah, I imagine this.
Yeah. Well, the first question I'm sure you got it a million times is that how are you guys legally able to do this movie?
Yeah, people ask me that many times, but while the movie certainly like plays with the heartstrings and kind of brings up superhero tropes, it doesn't. It tells a story about characters that we've created. The Breyer family,
right?
And so there's been a million alien invasion stories, and they've happened in 1,000 different ways. If you lined up all the movies that began with an alien or alien or like an alien rock covered in slime,
right,
or like an alien, just the 10,000 different ways aliens have come to the planet, and in movies, so we so that's how,
right. It's true. You never really say, as long as you don't say anything inside of the copyright and everything too, and you change it around, you make your own characters and your own stories with a familiar type of story, but yet different. Why wouldn't you be able to get away with it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you have any correspondence, or did you talk to Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment at all about this?
There was no legal problems at all, and no, we didn't.
You wouldn't have to.
But I mean, even just to not to ask them anything, to let them know, especially with the connection of Gunn. Like, was there ever anything?
I don't know if he talked to anyone, but I didn't know. I kind of made it. I made this movie in a vacuum.
Yeah.
In a vacuum. Like, most of the time I spent working on this movie, it was in about a room this size.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Well, yeah.
That's awesome.
Tell me a little bit about that, though, too, because the last time that we talked about the Hive, and there was the release of that film, and then you and James obviously been tight for a long time, and then how does the conversation start to be like, hey, I got this idea, I want to do this thing?
Yeah, well, okay, sure. James and I have been talking about making a movie for quite a long time, and we just couldn't find the right thing, or we'd go after things and we wouldn't get them for a whole number of reasons. And then I'm at James's house, and Brian and Mark, his brother and his cousin, who are a writing team, were telling me about the script they were working on. And I told them, you need to send that to me immediately, because I think I can get it made. And I read it, and I guess they were trying to get it made without me.
Yeah.
And so I read it, and I made about 20 pages in, and I emailed them. I said, I can't keep reading this because I'm getting mad that I can't make this.
Yeah.
So if ever you want to consider me, give me a call, and I'll and we can chat about it. And so they
had
brought
another director who was on board?
Yeah, they had someone else. But it was a totally different. It was a different version of the story, though. In a way, it was more of a. It was a smaller movie. It was like the type of thing you'd make for under $1 million, and it was like a kind of indie. It was more of like a thriller.
Yeah.
Like I came in and I said, like, I think this can be more of like a big horror concept, and that we can lean into these like bigger horror set pieces and make him scary. He should wear like a psychopath mask and a cape, and so I pitched them a trailer, and the shortest version. Sorry, I keep getting distracted by this.
Everybody, he does that. He's godlike, isn't he?
Special kind of guest, though, to notice. A lot of people are they don't even see Zac
Yeah,
Efron.
he does. Something he's been popping up in the peripheral to a lot of people lately too. But I think the hair's growing.
Yeah,
maybe that's what it is.
Hair on fleek.
Yeah, it's true. But you pitched a trailer.
Oh yeah, so I pitched a trailer.
What does that mean? You pitch a trailer?
He made a trailer, right?
Well,
like a little mini one.
Yeah. Well, no. What happens
okay.
is what it means is, like you go and you sit in a room with writers, and you have to, especially them, they're they're creating this movie. They're putting this back. They're making the decision of who they're going to go with.
Right.
And so I had to come up with a way to sort of sell them on what I wanted to do with the movie. And so the way I did that was I walked them through what I thought the trailer of the movie is. And by doing that, it kind of frames what the movie we're making is. And anyways, the kind of funny ending of that is if you cut forward to the end of the film and Sony's cutting trailers, and they kept sending over trailers, and we were like, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right. And so I said, hey, when we first started working on this project, I went to the writers, and this is what I pitched them as the trailer for the movie, and that's really what we made.
Was that the one?
That's how we went.
Great.
And so, of course, you see where this is going.
Yeah.
But Sony cut that trailer, and that's really that's the trailer.
That's what sold it to. I mean, to us, Riley is like the most massive Superman fan. He comes running into me, and saying, "Listen, there's a trailer out there right now. It's crazy." It's before I knew you were on it, and he goes, and he's like, "It's dark Superman. It's crazy." So we turn it on, and it just, and then the cast. Talk about what about the casting process? Like, so do you think you're gonna be able to nail down that cast originally? Because the budget.
I did. I had this weird, I had this weird belief that I was reading the script and I felt like Elizabeth had to play the role.
Did you know her?
I had met her once or twice at James's house at a game night. I played Mafia. I don't know if you know the game Mafia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I went to camp. I know.
She actually, I didn't know her well, but she taught me how to play the game because really her husband had played it somewhere, and so he came in and taught all of us, and so I learned that night from them, and then I'd see her on occasion. I saw her. James had a Guardians 2 screening for his friends where he would get notes, and so I was there and she was there.
So you had a little bit of a relationship for sure. It wasn't just kind of going in cold.
Yes, it wasn't going in cold. But I certainly didn't feel like I could go to her with a script and offer her a movie. But I just had this feeling that it was just the right part for her, that she could kill it. I don't know. I just was reading it, and she was the only person I could imagine. And a lot of people were like, I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if we're going to get her. Small movie, man. And I don't know why. I just believed it. And at the time, I think they were going to go shoot Charlie's Angels while we were making the movie, so it seemed impossible. But I ended up in my agent's office when we were talking about alternative options, and I look over on his desk, and he has it's a paper like this, and it has a list of names on it, and I'm like, that says Elizabeth Banks. What's that list? And he said, oh, it's a list of people who aren't on something for the next 3 months.
Opened up.
She opened up, because the thing pushed, and agencies knew before anyone else, and so I'm texting James, I'm texting everyone, I'm like, let's go to her right now. Let's go to her right now. I'm I think I was in her office 2 days later.
That's
after
awesome.
and she had read it so quickly, and we were just off
vibes on it too. So is she a producer on the movie as well too?
I don't think she is.
No.
I don't know if she's credited, but she certainly in working with her was in many ways a creative partner.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say, because like you said, to where they told you the budget's $6 million, you get a star that big, that sometimes, a lot of times, it's like, okay, we'll make you a producer on the movie, or you have a lot more creative control, but it seems like you guys kind of vibed. I mean, obviously, from what you're saying, you wanted her, and you're happy with your decision. So.
Oh, my God, am I happy with my decision. I mean, the day before we start shooting, we all went to dinner, and I looked around the room, having just done our, a table read, and I told everyone that we had made a whole string of good decisions to all end up at this table about to go shoot this movie, because the cast was, I felt just really strong, and they brought so much to the words, It really, seeing the movie go from words on a page to hearing Elizabeth realize them, and David realize them, and even Jackson bring so much life into them was crazy.
Riley.
Oh, so many questions. I mean, when you're working in the lore of Superman, I mean, do you go and look at some of the comics? But there's also stories that in the comic book universe, like, have you heard of Squadron Supreme?
No.
Which is Marvel's version of Superman. But instead of like, okay, so the meteorite hits, and they're like, oh my God, we have this new baby. And then there's like knock at the door, and it's the government. They're like, no, we'll take that.
Yeah.
And then they grow Superman to Hyperion, which becomes a government-led thing. But it's beside the point. If there's any kind of lore that you took from it, inspired by it, and if you just start there, and it's like, we know he lands, we know their parents, and then you're off and running in a horror movie.
Sure. Yeah, this is a really unexciting answer, but I actually didn't.
You kind of need to, I would say, to go into the direction that you want to go in.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I had such a clear direction that I wanted to go in. You know, you all know what it is now, but you know, I kind of. I didn't really, you know. The things that I watched were horror movies.
Yeah,
you know, like
that makes sense.
Like I watched The Orphanage and I watched The Others and
Orphanage is great.
yeah, and I watched every Conjuring movie 100 times and I watched you know it just literally everything James Wan has made because he gets like horror set pieces in a way that like no one else does. You know,
also relies on characters similar too.
Yeah.
It doesn't it not just the jump scares and the cliche stuff, and it's more like because I think we talked about this last time. I've never been a traditional like horror guy slasher film type thing, but I like stories that are diving in characters and lore and have a lot more feel to them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, me too. But in terms of the research I did, it was really based on like how. You know, I'd watch scary movies and study, you know, the 10-minute anticipation horror set piece and see how it would subvert my expectations and be scary and build anticipation. What shot it held and when did I feel fear and when did I not feel fear? And then I would just, you know, try to kind of reinvent that with superhero.
This is just a hunch then, but because you based it more in horror than what we were initially thinking, do you dislike it being called Dark Superman by the fans?
Well, I don't know who you guys keep saying this super person thing. I've never heard of that person.
Yeah.
yeah, it's right.
Me neither.
Yeah, I don't know who you guys are talking about, but
I like horror movies.
Yeah.
Listen, to me, we're certainly playing with people's expectations, and we're certainly playing with tropes in a fun way. So, I mean, people can call it whatever they want. I mean, it is absolutely you know, playing with superhero mythology and turning it evil. You know, we're certainly doing that.
Look, you can look at Star Wars first one, and when it came out, and I'm sure a lot of people said, "Hey, they're doing like a new Flash Gordon. They're doing like a new like something along those lines too." But all right, so this movie obviously already 25 million worldwide. You got to feel
crazy.
Be feeling great about that, obviously, and another weekend coming up here. But what's because I know you want to stay busy, you want to keep doing stuff. What's next?
True. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. This movie has opened doors for me in crazy ways.
I'm sure
that I mean, you know, like I can't really express to people how tiny this movie was, you know, and like. You know, I did have a moment where I grew a little concerned because the trailer when it came out it blew up so big, and the social sharing.
Yeah. You didn't expect that to happen?
I didn't expect that.
Okay.
And the first time we tested the movie, you know, we had this like test group at the front of the theater, and there were a couple kids sitting there, and they liked the movie, but they were
Children?
Well, I don't know, 17, 18,
Okay.
19. Yeah, sorry. I'm
Yeah.
No, that's
almost
okay.
40 now.
These kids. Yeah.
These kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, they saw the movie and they were like, it was good, but you know, we were kind of expecting like Avengers stuff with like cities exploding and I, you know, I was concerned that people didn't get that we were a tiny little horror movie with like big hopes, you know, and that we were we were really the little engine that could. This movie, the
Yeah.
entire experience of making this movie has been just like
push,
pushing a little.
Well,
Yeah,
but isn't that? I guess that's the positive. I mean, more positives than the negative. But like as far as expectations, because the second you see produced by James Gunn, and you see, then people are going to go, oh. I mean, people who aren't familiar with it will say this is going to be another big superhero movie. But
Right.
But then obviously, if you go into your background and everything too, and then I think once the trailers as they start to play, you get it. I mean, you have to start to get that towards those trailers because I was expecting that. That's. I think that everybody in this room was expecting a kind of more gritty, small
movie.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
Cool. That's cool.
As much as I love Superman, I was expecting a horror movie, though,
Yeah.
just because the way it's all framed. And it is a kind of a classic trope that you can take a powered individual, make them the killer, or make them something that you worry about, and you can play in that, which I love.
Yeah.
I think without finding the right young boy, this movie, of course, does not work.
Yeah.
And you did a great job with that.
Thank you.
What was that search like? Because it can be really difficult with children.
Yeah, I had heard that a lot coming into this movie, and people were concerned, and I certainly knew in doing all of the research on other scary kid movies that these movies tend to be judged by that performance, and so there was pressure, but we hired a casting agent, and the same way every movie does, and then he sent us 200 tapes of kids the same way every movie does, and the first tape we watched was Jackson.
It was the first one.
The first
Wow,
one.
that's awesome.
What are the odds, right?
Yeah.
And we watched every tape, but
Yeah.
Jackson, we saw Jackson's tape, and we all looked. Well, we weren't together, but we all started emailing each other "You
All
see
on the
Jackson?"
same page.
Yeah, all on the same page.
That's crazy.
We were all in on Jackson,
Yeah.
and then we watched all these other tapes, and we were like, "Yeah, this guy's good," but Jackson, and so I got in the room. You never know, because you could feel that way on a tape, and then get in a room with someone, and they don't take direction,
Right.
or they because that's a big thing, right? You people have these performances locked in. And then if you come in and you say, all right, that's great, but can you do it like this?
Well, that's why I was asking about Elizabeth Banks, because you guys knew each other too, but it's to where like you said, this is your second movie. So yes, you played Mafia together and everything too, and she's friends of friends, but she's got to really trust you, and she's got to be able to creatively. That's why. So you're saying with Jackson, to where there's you don't know, and you got to find the vibe, and I think that it's on the director to really sell their vision and make the actors comfortable.
Yeah, well, exactly. I went in the room and I had to tell her what my vision was, why I was making this movie, what the movie meant to me, and what I was trying to achieve, what her character meant to me, and then she talked about it and what she was attracted to in the role, and we kind of synced up, and that was really cool. I mean, she was really great. I mean, if you're a director who is working on your second movie, Elizabeth is a great person, because she I'm convinced that one day I will be stuck on a set with an actor who's a pain and a nightmare, and that I have to micromanage, or I have to feed lines to, because they're totally not prepared. But Elizabeth was
You've worked with Roka then.
She was a kind of an overachiever.
Yeah.
Which was crazy, because she was actually in some kind of development on Charlie's Angels, because she whenever she wasn't working, she'd be giving script notes. I could see her.
She's also a very successful director herself. So that's because you talked about doors opening up for you too, and conversations that you've been having too. Are there already other projects that you're thinking about doing? Want to do? You want to stay in the horror genre?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sort of exploring. I mean, I love horror movies. I'm certainly happy to make horror movies. I'm a big fan of sci-fi. And I would be really happy to make some sci-fi stuff. I kind of like the genre stuff.
What's the dream franchise to work on?
BioShock.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
I'd make a BioShock movie.
Yeah.
How come?
Portal. How come? BioShock to me was I finished BioShock Infinite, and I was speechless for a night. I couldn't speak. I thought it was just somehow I'd been watching movies my whole life, and then I played that game, and it like blew my mind in a way that movies hadn't in a long time.
Well, let me ask you a question about that though, because when it comes to, and I always want to, there's a lot of question I want to ask directors when they approach video game movies, because there's still that thing out there that there really hasn't been a great one yet.
Yeah.
Is that alluring, or is that scary to where it's like, I want to be the first person to make the great video game movie, or they just don't work for some reason with the audiences?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. I don't want to out who, but I did have a conversation with someone who was making one of the bigger, video game movies, and I was talking to them, and I was like, oh yeah, like, this was a really cool aspect of the game, and I hope you're using that piece of it. And their eyes kind of glazed over. It wasn't a director or creative, but it was, and I had immediately realized that they really had never played.
Right. They just wanted the IP.
Yeah. And so I know that there are creatives out there and there are producers out there who also play games. I know because I play games with them. But in general, these oftentimes these projects end up in the hands of people who haven't played the game or like play the game for a weekend to catch up for their meeting, and don't get what is the actual thing that we're attracted to in the game.
Yeah.
And so I think that can be a problem. And then I also think that the nature of the relationship of the game designer and the filmmaker can be a contentious relationship.
That's what happened with Halo all those years ago, right? Like when it came, 2005 was when that movie was going around, and then that was one of the big things. Who was the company? It was I always forget the name of the company that was doing it. But anyway,
Bungie?
Bungie, yes. And Bungie couldn't come to agreement with whoever the studio was. It was just like you said, they were knocking heads. I'm hoping, because there's that rumor now that the movies with Benioff and Weiss, the Star Wars ones, are going to be the Knights of the Republic, which was a fantastic game, and I think that has the ability to be the best video game movie. But it's interesting because
it totally does, because they'll make it a real movie.
That's what you'd hope. But but hearing from a gamer and somebody who wants to make these movies, it's interesting. You said BioShock and Portal; those would be your two choices up top.
That I can think of right now. But each one of those are like.
BioShock, man, that's right in your horror sci-fi.
Is there anything going on with those movies right now? Like as far as
I heard there was something in development. I haven't heard anything in such a long time right now. You gotta. I'm looking at you. Well, maybe to change that.
If you learned anything from David in this conversation too, if he was going after find out where Elizabeth Banks is, I'm sure he knows where BioShock is. Right?
Oh yeah.
Those movies you're talking about probably would be a little bit of a bigger budget than something like a Brightburn.
I hope so.
If you had 15 million more dollars, or give yourself as much as you want, what would you have done with Brightburn differently?
Well, I don't think I would have taken $15 million more on the movie because of what the movie I was making. It would have been kind of irresponsible of me. I mean, I knew that I was making a super violent, fucking dark, weird. I can curse.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
You just did.
But just I knew what I was making. I knew I was making something crazy and dark, and so if it would have reshaped the movie in a way that I didn't want to reshape it. It would have been a safer movie. People's jaws wouldn't be falling off and stuff like that. It would have been.
Oh my God, that still haunts me. Disgusting. Great though. But disgusting.
You came running in here.
But that's what the movie was. The movie was like, okay, someone's going to use superpowers on us, and it's going to be terrifying and haunting, and it's going to end dark, and it's going to, we're going to, instead of give people hope and joy, we're going to like suck all their hope and joy away.
But that's the business. But that's the business of it also too, which is very smart, because it's a great question as far as if you had the extra 15, and to say I don't need the extra 15, because like I said, you did it on 6. It made 24.
Yeah,
you did it right for
not
yourself.
Bad.
Yeah, right. Because if you would have done 15 and then made 24, now you got to keep. Now you get away for the next weekend, and the next weekend's going to come out now. You're going to add to that 24. Yeah. So it was a smart move.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's always like. A yin and a yang in here. There's two parts of my brain. There's the creative part of my brain that's like, sure, I wish I could have had another 15 million just to go crazy with this or that.
Or even marketing, maybe.
Sure, yeah, but right. I mean,
Right.
there's a number. There's 15 million different ways I could spend 15 million more dollars.
Right.
But yeah, but the other part of my brain that wants to work again, and the part of me that like needs to be a responsible filmmaker, kind of knew that staying within a budget was the way to go on this. Yeah.
Did you ever think about, because I'm always curious how somebody decides, did you ever think about making the little boy a little girl?
No.
How come?
Because I think it because any how do I phrase this?
I'm not trying to set you up here. I'm just curious because of the ties to He Who Must Not Be Named. I feel like there would be less of that if it had been.
Well, I think any deviation from the tropes feels like it's a message about why it's evil. So anytime you take anything and change it, we included a scene in one of the trailers of like him getting pushed over and being bullied at school, and once that trailer was out, there were a lot of people who thought, oh, he got bullied at school and that's why he's the bad guy. And I certainly wouldn't want anyone to take from the movie that, oh, well, someone, a girl lands and that's why she's evil or so, and so deviating seemed to tweak the message.
Yeah.
Got it.
Good.
Good answer.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Way to go.
Yeah. There's something else I was going to ask you. Oh, yeah. So as far as because you and James, well, first of all, where did you guys meet?
we met at a party.
Just at a party.
We met at a party, and he stepped in dog poop, and I made fun of him for it, and he did not like that.
And that got you a job.
Well, it got me a friend for a really long time. That's what it did. And then that night we played poker, and then we became
buddies because
buddies.
He's obviously a mega producer now, mega director, and obviously he's a lot kind of ups and downs over the last year. But as far as working with him as a producer, now what have you not as just your friend, but what have you learned from him as a producer?
Well, it's so weird, right? Because like James is like just a long time friend of mine, right? And like. He's a guy who I sat in the backyard and we'd smoke cigars and talk about movies and fight over, if this movie's good or bad or whatever, And I was on set at Guardians for a day because I was in a role, and I think that might have been almost the extent of me seeing him as a director. Oh no! I produced a couple little shorts for him on Xbox or something. But in most of the time that I see him, I haven't seen him working.
Just buddies.
He's just a buddy of mine, and so to see him on this side and to kind of learn from him and the way he breaks down the work, and how he looks at things and how he attacks the process was really interesting. I tried my best to just learn as much from him as I possibly could over the course of making this, and see how, he understands the spine of a script better than maybe anyone else in town. He knows that so well, and I mean, he understands character too incredibly well. But I think that his biggest asset is a total mastery of storytelling and the spine of a story, and he's really smart.
Did you see this coming for him before any of the fame or him blowing up when you were just friends?
Well, I mean, when I met him, I knew who he was because I thought that he was like cool because he wrote Dawn of the Dead, and I like Slither, and I was not at all surprised. I I was a fan of his, right? And I grew up a fan of like Sam Raimi's, and I grew up a fan of Peter Jackson. These were like idols to me, and they were guys who made cult movies like Dead Alive or Evil Dead, Army of Darkness,
Right.
and then went on to make some of the biggest movies in the world. So it wasn't really that surprising to me, but the way it played out was a little surprising because I hung out with him and he was like, "Oh, I'm up for something kind of crazy." I don't know if I'm gonna get it, but he's like, "I'm up for a movie called Guardians of the Galaxy."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Here we are today.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And he's like, "There's a tree and a raccoon."
Talking
And I
raccoon,
was like,
yeah.
"Okay, man. Good luck."
Good luck. Crazy. Well, listen, guys, the film is Brightburn. It is in theaters now. You can see it. Go to your theaters. Go check it out. Dave, thank you so much for joining us, man. You got to come back and join us again.